Time to talk some Ole Miss football here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all stopping by. We got Evie Van Pelt here. Good to see Ole Miss Evie from the Rebel Walk. Evie, what's going on tonight?
Oh, just excited to be here in Nashville. Things are kind of winding down. Lane Kiffin and the Rebels went today, and so just enjoyed being here and getting to see what Lane and his players had to say.
Before I got a chance to see what Lane Kiffin had to say, I saw several comments on social media complaining that Lane Kiffin was talking too much about NIL. Those are the complaints I saw first before I went back and then watched Lane Kiffin at the podium and in some of the side sessions. But he definitely addressed that kind of overall as, some issues to clean up, but also for his particular team that with all the transfers in, that it was not always easy to keep team continuity the entire season all the way through.
Right, and I think, it's interesting. I've already seen a couple of national types get on and, "Oh, well, Lane Kiffin's talking bad about the portal when he benefits from it more than, anybody." And I mean, he was the first one to say that, I mean, I benefit from this. I mean, I think right now his transfer class for 2023 is number 5 in the nation. So he's not saying he hadn't benefited from it, but what he's saying is, um, I think he said his exact words were, "I don't know if such big roster turnovers are good for college football." And I think that's a point. Now he did, he's been ahead of the curve to me. I mean, when all this first came out with NIL and portal and all that, he said, "We've got free agency. We got free agency in college football, basically. Only, we don't have contracts." And he at the time said that he thought we should have windows, and now we kind of have some windows. So I think it's evolving, and I think it will probably continue to evolve. But there are a lot of issues where it is pretty much the Wild West, and he's right. I mean, it is name, image, and likeness was designed for one reason, but I think we do have pay for play. I mean, we all know that we have pay for play.
And Evie, it seems as though based on what he talked about, he also experienced for the first time, this is what can happen to a team that's not been together for 2, 3, 4 years. He mentioned how close the Alabama game was, and had they been able to close the deal in the red zone and taken that home for a win to get to 9-1, maybe it would have gone much differently for a team that would have then continued to be motivated and playing for a championship versus, okay, missed opportunity. Now, where do we go from here? And a lot of guys that had not played together for a long time and trying to keep that cohesion for the entire season.
Right. And I think, I thought it was interesting that he said that. He said, "I didn't do a good enough job at that point in the season forward of kind of, keeping the culture together and working with the guys." Because you're right. I mean, I think when you got a lot of new different personalities together and everything's going great, you're 7-0 or 7-1, woohoo. But then a little tough times hit. And then I think that's when some of those flaws are kind of maybe exposed a little bit. But again, I don't know what the answers are, but I do think that we will probably continue to see things, tweaked. And I mean, there's going to have to be something done. He brought up how you've got some states that are different, like in Texas, where A&M with the 12th Man Foundation, their fundraising arm of the university now can give money to the collective, and the collective can then pay players. And the state has now passed the laws, where where NCAA, you got no control here. Whereas in some states, like Mississippi, the NCAA does have control because Mississippi hasn't passed any laws. So I mean, that's just such a disparate set of rules there within the same conference. So I don't know how you move forward with that. I think I don't share Commissioner Sankey's optimism that Congress can do anything. I'm not sure Congress can do much of anything. So I think personally, at some point, it's going to come down to maybe individual conferences will do something, because I think Sankey's going to get enough. I just think that there are teams that are not happy with the advantages that other teams have just based on what state they're in.
So getting back to Lane Kiffin, does he seem optimistic about this team?
He does, and I don't know if it's I think, they've got a lot of new coaches, not just new players, but new coaches, and I think Lane likes that. I think Lane likes the injection of new ideas, new blood. Um, I think he's excited to have Pete Golding. From everything I've seen and heard and players I've talked to, I think Golding's doing a really good job with the defense and moving to the more of a four-man front. I think he's incredibly excited about his offense. Now, again, Lane doesn't come across, jumping up and down excited about anything, but I think, he's excited about Quinshawn. I think he's excited about his quarterback room. I don't, we can talk about that, what's going to happen there. But I think he got Zachary Franklin, the transfer from UTSA wide receiver, who's phenomenal. Got Caden Prescorn, tight end transfer from Memphis. Michael Trigg seems to be fully healed. So he's got those two tight ends. And again, I think the offense, begins and ends with Quinshawn. And I think he's really excited. Quinshawn's bigger, stronger. I mean, he was just a true freshman last year, so I think we're going to see some cool things from Quinshawn.
Yeah, and his explosion onto the college football scene was even more surprising because as a three-star, typically those guys take a couple years to develop, and then all of a sudden, boom, let's say their sophomore, junior year, okay, this guy belies his recruiting ranking. But right out of the gate, that typically doesn't happen. So for him to, by 3, 4, or 5 games into the season, he was catching my eye, and I was like, okay, I need to look back and see where I missed this guy, because he is a wrecking crew and just a complete package at running back.
Yeah, I think Nick Saban may be wondering that too. Where did I miss this guy? It just goes to show you. I mean, there are cases like this, 3 stars. I mean, Evan Ingram just signed, I think, with Jacksonville, a great big huge contract. He was a 3-star tight end at Ole Miss. So I mean, there are times that some of those services are wrong. Quinshawn, this was really it. He came to SEC Media Days for Ole Miss, and Ole Miss doesn't let freshmen talk to the media. So last year we didn't get to talk to him, and it was really a pleasure to get to at Media Days. And he's enthusiastic, he's humble, and really excited about the coming season. And like I say, he's bigger and stronger. And Kiffin referenced, we've got Coach Kevin Smith, who had been at Ole Miss, and then he left, running backs coach, and then was at Miami, and now he came back for this coming year. Well, he had recruited Quinshawn. Quinshawn told me since like he was in 9th or 10th grade, and Kiffin commented how nice it is having Kevin Smith work with him. He said Quinshawn needs work on his blocking, and he needs to work on his footwork. And, so I mean, there's things that they think he can do to improve even more so on last season.
So you mentioned, Evie, the quarterback situation, which as it's unfolded throughout the offseason, it has somewhat surprised me in that Jackson Dart, highly touted, he's an incoming transfer, puts together a solid season, not spectacular, but a good season. Spencer Sanders, despite his turnover issues at times at Oklahoma State, extremely experienced quarterbacks, accounted for 12 or 13,000 yards total, 100 touchdowns. So a wealth of experience for a guy that's won a Fiesta Bowl a couple of years ago. And then Walker Howard, who has next to no experience, but he's a 5-star. And
Right.
he even decides, I'm going to go to Ole Miss and compete for this job. That many quarterbacks would be attracted to the same location just to work with Lane Kiffin and believe that they can win the job.
And don't forget, we've also added Austin Simmons, who is a 4-star quarterback who had committed to Florida. He's interesting. Class of 2025 kid who was so smart, he graduated after his freshman year of high school, and or had enough credits to graduate, and has reclassified 2 years to the class of 2023, and he's on campus now and is looking to
Two
play
years.
2
I
years.
don't
He
think
went
I've heard that.
I haven't either. Went from 2025 to 2023 and is also a dual sport kid and is apparently a pretty good baseball pitcher. So he's actually on campus now. So, I mean, a 4-star ain't nothing to sneeze at either. So now you've got, now one would have to think probably he would redshirt, but, again, I never say never with Lane. But certainly he's got a stable of talented quarterbacks. Now, I will tell you, Dart had a couple of weeks ago when the Manning Passing Academy was going on, he was supposed to be there and be a counselor, and he ended up, he didn't. He had meniscus surgery. So he's supposed to be fine by 1st of August, fall camp. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if that opens a door a little for Spencer. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. I tell people I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson, as a returning starter, trots out there to start the Mercer game. I don't know if that'll be the case in the Alabama game. I mean, they're just, I guess we'll just see, because it's awfully hard. I mean, you're right. Spencer Sanders has a lot of experience, has thrown for a lot of yards, is a tremendous leader. I thought he looked great in the Grove Bowl. So, I don't know how you have a Spencer Sanders on the bench if, maybe you're behind in the Alabama game. I'd be awfully tempted to want to see what he can do.
We're talking to Ole Miss Evie. You can catch her and the rest of the crew there at therebelwalk.com. You see it right there on the screen. Check out their coverage of Ole Miss athletics. Please give us a like here as well at the Voice of College Football and subscribe. So, as we hit through August camp, what would be your estimation on what unit needs the most work?
Well, I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. But they've got a lot of transfers. I think we have 14 transfers on defense alone. So I think just kind of the meshing, we talked to DeAndre Prince, cornerback, and Cedric Johnson, the defensive end today. They don't feel like there are any kind of chemistry issues. But again, I mean, I don't know that they're going to say, yeah, we've got chemistry issues. But and I don't know chemistry per se. I mean, I think they all get along, but I think just, that many new faces, along with some talented, I want to see Suttering Perkins, who is a 5-star from Mississippi. And we asked Kiffin where he would be playing, and he said linebacker. And but he's a true freshman, but I could see him making an impact like a Harold Perkins from LSU. I mean, he's that good. And so I think that's just what I want to keep an eye out on and see. I don't think it'll take too long, and Suttering will probably be a starter if he's not early on. But and then going to the 4-man front, I kind of want to see how that goes. But just kind of overall the defense. But I tell you what, Pete Golding was energetic and enthusiastic, and watching him in spring, he was very, very, very hands-on with those kids. So I'll be interested to see how he does with that unit.
So, what is a successful season for Ole Miss this year?
Given their schedule, I mean, they got to go to Athens, so that's not going to be easy. But I tell people when they ask me what are the expectations, and I said Lane Kiffin is making over $9 million a year now. He's in the top 10 highest paid coaches. I don't think 7-5 is going to please anybody. So I think, to be honest, I think anything fewer than 8 wins, I don't think people are going to be so happy. I mean, I think, and I think, looking at the schedule and I think they have, 16 returning starters, and they've got, their offense, I think, is going to be wonderful. Even though they lost Mingo and they lost Malik Heath, I think they've got some very solid returning receivers, Jordan Watkins, Peyton Wade. And then I think they're going to do 12 personnel now that they got Prieskorn in there as a tight end with Michael Trigg. Personally, I would be disappointed if they didn't win 9 games. I mean, I think they've got the talent, and I think that the defense, yes, they have a lot of transfers and they have some new people, but the players that they have returning, I think they've got some talented guys up front, JJ Pegues and Cedric Johnson, and And they got a couple of transfer linebackers that they're looking forward to seeing how they do. Jeremiah John Baptiste and Monty Montgomery from Louisville. So I expect that unit to be a stronger unit than it was last year. So to me, less than 9 wins, I'm disappointed.
There's the word from Ole Miss Evie. So we will take it to the bank. Join Evie and the rest of the crew there at therebelwalk.com. Evie, thank you so much for stopping by. Good to see you, and enjoy the rest of your stay.
Well, thank you. It's always great to be here. I feel like I've missed you. I haven't seen you in a while, so thank you so much for having me.
Always.